Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the Apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. The topic for this program is Mary's Rosary is for some Protestants. But this message isn't just for Protestants, but also for many Catholics who do not pray the Rosary. Now, the reason this message is for some, but not all Christians, is because Jesus did not command us to say the Rosary. So why is the Rosary just for some Christians? Because Jesus said that one man's meat is another man's poison. Now, Jesus did tell his disciples to pray the Our Father. He did tell them to celebrate the Lord's Supper. And we also need to remember that it was God himself who said the first Hail Mary. The Hail Mary is actually God's love letter to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And he delivered this letter through the postman, the Archangel Gabriel, who delivered God's love letter in person. Now, to those people who like to claim that Catholics commit idolatry for praying the Hail Mary, let me ask you this. Do you think God was committing idolatry for sending his love letter to Mary? If God himself can praise Mary, it is really arrogant for some people to accuse Catholics of idolatry for doing the exact same thing our Lord did. And I realize that many Protestants do already pray the Rosary. Many Orthodox, many Anglicans, many Lutherans, and many other denominations also pray the Rosary. Now let's look at the second major objection people have for praying the Rosary, and that is that it is repetitive prayer. I will admit that when God proclaimed the Hail Mary to the Blessed Virgin Mary, he only said it once. And it's also true that Jesus said we should not multiply our prayers like the heathens. But remember, he said, like the heathens. He did not rule out repetitive prayer completely. For example, in the Bible, we hear the angels in heaven sing, Holy, Holy, Holy. And of course, Jesus gave us the parable where he commended the widow who kept pestering the judge to give her justice. The judge symbolizes God. And the judge finally relented and granted the woman justice because of her repetitive requests. Now, the third major objection I hear to the Rosary is that Jesus is the only intercessor between man and God. This is true, but who is the intercessor between man and Jesus? Jesus' very first miracle was at the wedding feast of Cana, where he changed water into wine. And he did this through the intercession of his mother Mary. Also, it is not unusual for Christians to ask others to intercede for them. How often have you asked your pastor or your congregations to pray for you? This is also intercessory prayer. And how much more will Jesus listen to his mother rather than your family members or even your pastor? Whatever else divides Christians, the Rosary should not be one of them. Now, in end times prophecy, the Rosary is extremely important. Let me just quickly review some of the places where the Rosary is found in Bible prophecy. For example, in the story of David versus Goliath. David uses 5 smooth pebbles to defeat Goliath. David, of course, prefigures Jesus. Goliath prefigures the Antichrist. But the 5 smooth pebbles prefigure the Rosary. Jesus' weapon in defeating the Antichrist in the end times will be the Rosary. In the book of Esther, the hangman's rope that hangs Haman is 50 cubits long. Haman prefigures the Antichrist. And the 50 cubits prefigures the 50 Hail Marys in a 5-decade rosary. In the miraculous draught of fishes, the 153 fish which Peter catches symbolize the 153 Hail Marys in a complete 3-mystery rosary. Way back in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God tells the serpent, who is of course Satan, that he will put enmity between the serpent and the woman. The woman prefigures Mary. Notice this passage is chapter 3, verse 15, both of which are rosary numbers. In the Olivet Discourse, verses 27 through 41, which I call the victory verses, are divided up into a 5-5-5 pattern. This numerology is not accidental. That 5-5-5 sequence indicates the rosary. In Daniel, chapter number 11, the last 15 verses are divided up into, again, a 5-5-5 pattern. That is also not accidental. In conclusion, do not listen to Satan. Do not listen to the false prophets. If you want to get on the winning team, the team that will defeat the Antichrist, you must pray the rosary. And I'm not saying that it is required for you to say the rosary. St. John could envision the split in Christianity 2,000 years ago. And he saw that those who are raptured are mostly Protestants. And he saw that most who are protected with Mary in the desert are Catholics. But I can guarantee you one thing. If you do start praying the rosary, you will be amazed at Mary's intercession, just like the stewards who found the water changed into wine. And if you would like more information, simply write to the address you see on your screen.